This is actually my first, what you call it, the 9 to 5. For me, what sparked me coming into IW was the diversity of work, because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do at first, but they were like, that's fine. We have plenty for you to do.
It's very scary coming in. It's like day 2. Okay, first meeting with the client, you're going to run it. See how you get on kind of thing, build that relationship. It's like, I am what? Like, who else is going to be there? Who's going to help me kind of thing?
I do really believe in the power of a shared goal, because we all have like our own individual intrinsic motivations. You're motivated by numbers, I'm motivated by people, but we're still trying to do the same thing, right? We still have that shared goal.
Senior executives watching this, how to spark an employee, really clear, structured, measurable goals.
Hello, I'm Chris Sisman, and welcome to Sparks, a series by Interactive Workshops. In every episode, we spark something in work and life, from how to spark efficiency, to how to spark energy, to how to spark an employee. And we've got 2 excellent employees from Interactive Workshops. I'm really pleased to welcome George Dickinson and Blair Wagner to the show.
Hi, we're happy to be here.
Thank you very much for having me.
Really good to have you both on the show, and excited to get into this topic of how to spark an employee. How do you spark someone into being the kind of best performer they can be in their work? You're both employees, which is good. You can speak from experience. So why don't you introduce yourselves to us and share a little bit how you're sparking employees in what you do?
I'll let you kick it off, George.
Great. Yeah. So my name's George. I'm a producer here at Interactive Workshops. Been here for about over a year, 14, 15 months. Not that I'm counting. But yeah, been here for that time. Came from a long stint in the motor industry, working for a big company there. And this is my first real role in L&D. Did a little bit back there, but wanted to go to a company where I can make a bit more of an impact on a bit of a larger scale. So here I am.
And you are making impact with a lot of the clients you work with. Share a little bit about what you're doing in the L&D space now.
Yeah, so working with some really exciting clients and some great programs. I do have sales experience, so it ever seems like whenever there's a sales program that comes up, it's like, oh, George is our sales guy. It's like, okay, fine. So I love getting stuck into sales, working with quite a lot of leaders and sales teams at the moment about how we can upskill them. Maybe a lot of them come from quite technical backgrounds and sell quite technical products. So we may not have the expertise of that, but we can certainly help in the soft skills area, the mindset you need to bring to sales being sort of that swagger it is, but also how sales has changed as well, from that sort of traditional wheeler dealer mindset to a bit more of a value-based and relational selling standpoint. So that's why I mainly work with some really fun clients across Europe and also in New York as well, which is great fun.
Great stuff. And you got to go out to New York as well fairly recently.
I did, yeah. I've been to New York a few times, racking up the air miles, which has been great for my Amex card. But a good plug for British Airways Amex there. And then I'm going out there next month as well to help run a workshop for a client who they came to one of our workshops. They loved it so much they wanted us to do it for them. So a testament to our marketing team as well. So yeah, going out to New York, it has been good fun and working with our office over there.
Yeah, it's been great to see that. And Blair, what about you?
Well, I'm also a producer at Interactive Workshops. I also have a bit of a non-traditional background, some would say, into L&D. So my whole life, I've kind of studied people, which I know can sound a bit weird. I do have a fascination with people. Yeah, I've been watching you the whole time. But I started off studying communications, and then from there, I got introduced to anthropology, and that is a very deep study of people and sociocultural context. So I like to feel like that laid the foundation of what led me into L&D, which I actually did not realize was an industry before I joined. So found Interactive Workshops, and here I am. I think it's been, over 2 years now that I've been with the team. Yeah. It's been a very fun journey. So working with the team here, I'm actually on a team with George as well. So some of the topics that he's shared, I've worked on as well, some of the sales stuff. But mostly I feel like I've been working in the area of sort of team building, team development, management, change communications, leadership. Honestly, IW, there's never a lack of topics or areas to get into. So whatever they throw at me, just helping them spark their employees in that topic or area.
And recently you were voted Interactive Workshops one to watch as well. I have to bring this up. If someone has been watching you as the one to watch, what will they have seen this year? What have been some of the highlights?
I think that it actually feeds very well into the topic today because I feel like I found my spark. I was sparked as an employee, and I think that's how I received this very, very big award, right? This big title of one to
Yeah.
watch. I think what it was getting the space to be creative with projects and being a part of a lot of projects that I've been told we've never done before. So a lot of things like simulations, like interactive simulations, whether they be digital or in person. That's an area that I think we weren't doing so much previously. Somehow I got tasked with it. I said, sure, I'll give it a go. Never written a simulation, but it allowed me to be creative, sort of use some areas of knowledge and my understanding of people and how people interact with each other and with different topics, and taking that and developing it into something just really cool, just a really cool thing
really
to be able
good.
to deliver to
Yeah.
clients. So I would
Yeah.
say that, and then maybe just like the relational bit as well. Yeah,
good
client-facing stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're going to get into this topic of sparking employees and maybe understand a little bit about what sparked you as an employee and how you're sparking others as well. So why don't we start with what sparked you? Take me back to maybe when you first joined or as you got going in the role you currently do. What were the things that were sparking you and helping you achieve as an employee?
I think for me, I started a little over a year ago now, kind of with a bit of experience in sales and HR after that, but fully fledged L&D role for the first time. So there was a lot that I didn't know about. Had done a little bit of coaching before, had a diploma in coaching, so I know that sort of space. I know that was part and parcel of the job, but putting together training programs, I mean, I barely touch PowerPoint, so that was all alien to me, spreadsheets, things like that. So going into a bit more sort of the creative side is something I haven't really done before. So I felt like I needed a lot, even though I had a lot of good skills, I needed the upskilling in L&D, which I still didn't really know what it was about. So I came into a great team, which Blair was obviously a part of. And I think early on just got given the opportunity to run with projects and really have that opportunity to learn, make mistakes, grow, be supported by others, but it was very much you're taking on a piece of that project now. So immediately when I came in, working with a great client, we were putting together a team program for their sales conference, which happened to be in Miami last year. So I was able to go out there with a couple members of the team, which is really great fun. But it was having the opportunity as soon as I came in, this is your piece of work now, run with it, build the relationship with the client and kind of see what comes out the other end of it. And I hadn't really been given that free roam before. Whereas other jobs you start, there's a lot of onboarding, there's a lot of like drip feeding things, and you don't really have that responsibility, or not that I've had before either. So it was a really good change. So it was basically just in at the deep end, sink or swim. But I hope I swam because I'm still here, so I must be doing something right.
And it sounds like a lot of ownership was given to you from the start to own a project, to run with it, and trust as well that you would deliver on that as well. Like you say, rather than just going through some kind of onboarding program where it's like, oh yeah, you'll get to the big Miami project. And it's like, you run this, make this happen, go out to Miami from the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's very scary coming in. It's like day two. Okay, first meeting with the client, you're going to run it, see how you get on kind of thing, build that relationship. It's like, I am what? Like, who else is going to be there? Who's going to help me kind of thing? And at the start, it felt a little bit overwhelming, of course, going into that because you want to make a good impression. You want to do a good job. I still didn't really know my managers that well. So you're asking for support. You're trying to ask the right questions and things like that, making sure you don't mess up and waste everybody's time. So, but having the opportunity to have that ownership early on is really important because it gives you like I said, the space and the time to learn. And even when I was here for sort of 3 months, it felt like I'd been here for a year because the amount that you learn very quickly when you are able to have that ownership of things, which really helped drive my growth forward for sure.
Brilliant stuff. And I think it's actually a bit odd the other way around. When you get hired, you go through all this hiring process and there's all these questions and perhaps all these activities and scenarios, group discussions. We have a lot of that here. And then you get the job and you say, yeah, we think you're good enough. You're going to be a success here. And then you sit down at your desk and you don't get the projects that have been talked about and why you applied in the first place. That can be a bit weird. What's your experience been, Blair, of coming in and doing the job that you were hired to do?
So first, I think all of us can say we weren't sure what the job was when we got hired.
It's all things.
We just know it sounded really interesting and different. I think George can attest to this. It just sounded different than what you're used to. For me, in particular, this is actually my first sort of what you call it, the 9 to 5, like office-based job that I've ever done in my life. I kind of someone where I freelanced, I kind of hopped around a bit when I got my master's. So I've always just been like very in control of my time and what I'm doing, sort of making my own schedule. So for me, what sparked me coming into IW, or Interactive Workshops, let me say the whole name, was the diversity of work, knowing that I had a chance to kind of dip my toes into different areas, because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do at first, but they were like, that's fine, we have plenty for you to do. I remember one of the first questions that Jonna asked me, actually. It was my first NY trip working with Cody and the team out there. We were out to dinner and he asked me, what can we do to make sure that you don't get bored and leave us? Because he clocked very quickly that I'm someone that I do get bored very easily. I need I need stimulation. I need newness. I need excitement, like something creative. I said, I don't think there's a chance of that happening here. I said, this is the first place that I can confidently say, I don't think there's a chance of me getting bored. If anything, can we slow down a little bit sometimes? We say that, but we never want it to actually be slow. It's so boring. But yeah, I was like, I don't have a fear of that. And so that was what I think that was into my first year working here. And if Jonna wants to know the answer to that question, I'm still here. So I haven't gotten bored yet, haven't left. So
on reflection, what were those things that were sparking for you that meant there's no problem here? I've got the stimulus. What were the sparks?
I think, to George's point, the ownership and accountability. There wasn't, I think, in some jobs I would hear, like I said, this is my only experience with this type of role, but I would hear in other jobs, people fighting to get that progression, right? That growth, that space to take ownership, and also space to input their own ideas and their own creativity. You get a lot of that here. And I think we also have a very large voice in what we do. We have a bit of hierarchy, but it's also pretty flat, right? Like we need managers because we need someone to like keep us accountable, but I don't feel uncomfortable going to anyone, feeding back, even if they're above me, and sharing my ideas as well. So like specifically, I think the autonomy, the ownership, just having a voice, getting to be a part of the process from start to finish, getting to see the impact of your work as well. You get a lot of that here. So
just using some of the autonomy that you'd had before in previous roles as well, deployed in the 9 to 5.
But also the team aspect as well, because it was autonomy, but I was a team of one. Now I'm a team of, how many people was it? I can't remember, but a bigger team, and having to balance that autonomy, but also collaboration as well. So I would say collaboration, that's been so nice, having that element in the creative part of this job. If I get stuck one day, because it's hard to churn out ideas constantly, I can sit George down and be like, hey, I know you're good at sales. Like, do you have any ideas about this? Or like, Millie's really great as well on our team. She's so creative when it comes to how to make something like more interactive and things like that. So getting sort of community of people that you can brainstorm with, collaborate with is great as well.
And do you think there are, thinking more generally about the things that spark employees, the things that take us to high performance, are there some things that we could say everyone needs this kind of thing? Or should we be taking it case by case and thinking, well, George, for him, these things spark George, for Blair, these things spark Blair? Or are there some consistencies, do you think? Or should we take it case by case?
I think there's some, I have a lot of thoughts about this one. I think it's both. Like there are general things. I think things like incentive, right? Like what's the culture? How do people feel? Are they actually being rewarded for the work that they do? I think that's a big deal. I think every company has some sort of like incentive, right? Whether it be a bonus or like offsites, things like that, team days, social things, like that goes a long way. But I think it's also individual. I think in L&D, we all know, the concept like intrinsic motivation. So I think getting to know your employees on an individual level as well. I'm not saying you need to know every personal detail of their life, but I think particularly on our team, Nathan getting to know me a bit better, my personality is a bit different than the other people on the team. So he realized I have a different type of motivation. I have different things that spark me, right? So I think that improved like our working relationship as well, like getting to know each other on a more personal level and realizing not everyone is sparked or motivated the same way. So I think there's both levels. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to what Blair's point, a lot of the personal things as well, super important. Like we do a lot of psychometric and personality profiling here. we don't profile people, but assessments. We sell that as an offering to our clients, and we use that to build programs and build workshops. And we do a lot of executive training, and when we do peer coaching, we do group training, and all these things that happen as well to get into someone else's shoes, to be highly empathetic, to understand life from their point of view, and how what their approach to work is and what their mindset is. And if you know anything about me, I always throw a sports analogy in, because I love football, but they always say if you have an underperforming player in football, do they need an arm around the shoulder? Do they need a kick up So it's one of those things. How are we going to tailor our approaches to each individual person? Because how I work and how Blair works are actually relatively similar, I think. But for example, Nathan, we work very differently, and even though some aspects of our personality are very similar, others are very different. So we may come to blows a little bit over that if we don't get that chemistry right. So it is not just across the board. It's really important, like I said, to get to know your employees, to get to know everyone on a personal level, find out what makes them tick and what works for them in order to get the best out of them.
And we know you mentioned intrinsic motivators. We know from Dan Pink that it's not just about the extrinsic, but the intrinsic motivators as well. Maybe those are the things we can apply across the board. And then we need to drill into, okay, which of those matter to employees? Would you say that's the case?
I think we sort of realized that there was one COMEX like offsite type day. I think it was a strategy day that we were doing, and we were talking about, I think we mapped out the sales cycle, right? And like the different things that you have to do. And we were talking about who likes what phase of selling best. Cause you go from like the initial meetings to the proposals to negotiation and things like that. And we found that like there were different parts that we liked because there are different things that motivate us. George and I, that's why we find that we work very similarly. We love the first meetings, the interactions, getting the conversations in with people, the relational part. Whereas Millie was like, I like the proposals. I like the, negotiation. I like coming up with the ideas. So from that, I think we realized we had different motivators, right? Because Millie, for example, likes a specific number, a target to work towards. I don't want to speak for you. I'm not sure what yours was, but I realized I'm not really motivated at the end point, and I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, by a number. I'm not. You give me a number, I'm like, oh, that's nice. That's cool. Like, I get that, and I know that's very motivating for some people. It's nice to know what we work towards. But for me, my main motivator is how am I going to help these people in the end, which I know is so like fluffy and like, but it truly like, am I putting forth something that will really help these people? And I feel like I'm going to help them, then I'm very motivated by that. And I'm going to put forth like so much effort into what I'm doing. I always put in effort though, just for the record, always.
Just to make sure you underline
just to make sure.
Oh, yeah.
Keep that in.
I think it's an important distinction though, because I'm more numbers motivated. I think I obviously want to help people, but then it's like, well, what should I do? What am I aiming for? How would I know if I've done the job? So I have to kind of put a number of some kind on it. Even if I'm just trying to beat my 5K best time, I need to know what the number is and what then I need to run per kilometer to hit it in order to kind of get myself going and keep accountable to myself to do it. So I think those distinctions of even just, are you motivated by the numbers or the people side, or is it getting the task done, or is it whatever it is?
Yeah, it's really interesting as well. I think very similar to that offsite we had, and love being the relational part, the sales part. Sales is, I guess it's in my blood. I had to cut my teeth on a sales floor at the age of 20, being stabbed in the back by other car salesmen and things like that. Like it was tough growing up like that, but I really enjoyed it. And I think doing that whole sort of sales and relational side of things has really helped me, because there it's very transactional. It's like you hit a number or you're out. Like I've been sat in sales meetings where they told me if you don't get your numbers up, look for a new job, otherwise we'll kick you out, kind of thing. I sat in too many of those, which is why I left in the end. So that never motivated me. They always said, if you want to work in sales, you're motivated by money, you're motivated by the number. It was a big turn off for me. It wasn't really something I could get into. So similar to Blair, it's about putting the input in and seeing the output, seeing the value of the work that you've put in, that you've sometimes you've stayed late for, you've worked weekends, you've ground out results, and you can see that come to fruition at the end. Like we're working on a big project at the moment with a new client, which we're really excited about, and we're running a 2-day sales workshop next month. We're really super psyched about it. And at the end of that workshop, it'll be a huge relief. There's been a lot of hard work been put in, but it's all about, get me to the day, get me to, once everything's done, I want to stand in front of those people and deliver an excellent training program. Like that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's my motivation.
And you've worked on a lot of projects and programs like this one. What have you seen in terms of sparking employees? You've had them in workshops, or you've been designing content for them. what are the best ways to spark people through the things you've made and delivered?
I think it starts from, and this is going to be so L&D of me right now, but when you're doing that initial scoping, right? The active listening, it's such a, I feel like that sounds a bit buzzy.
Tell me about active listening.
But like really listening to what they need, right? Because people always tell you what they want, but what do they need? Unpacking that. And then you've done that. You've sparked the employee when they come to you after a session. They take the time to send you a message because they're taking time out of their day, right? Normally we're blocking some time out of their work week to deliver this program or this session. But when they take the time to send a message to you afterwards, they're like, this part was great. I'm going to use that. I've improved from this, right? I'm going to use Schindler as an example, if that's all right. We've run a lot of train the trainers with them. And sometimes Schindler, like they're very busy what they do. I mean, everyone's busy, but it's a challenge sometimes with the organization, getting the time. That's the biggest thing we hear. So I've ran train the trainers for them for different programs, focusing on empowering their team and also focusing a bit on how do you do that while also, protecting profit for the business, right? How do you balance that? And actually explaining that it all connects together, right? If your team is empowered, you'll see the benefits of that through your profits. So run a few train the trainers on that. And then recently we did an in-person program, separate part of the business, but some of the managers were in that program as well and had a few come up to me and say, it's so nice to finally meet you in person, because this is me seeing them face to face. The train the trainers were virtual. And they said, it's nice to meet you in person. I just need to say, those train the trainers were impactful. I've been able to take a lot of the tips that you've shared in that and actually apply them to my team, and I can see that improvement. And hearing that in person, because you don't always get that through an MPS score or anything like that, but getting to hear that, okay, something was sparked there, something landed, something worked. So
and doing the work as well of equipping the facilitators to do what they do
exactly
is a big part of helping anyone succeed. The prior training, we talk a lot about learning from mistakes. This is the opposite. This is learning ahead of time so that you're fully equipped, so you don't have to learn from mistakes too much or at all, and you've got everything you need to smash it.
Yeah, absolutely. Similar to Blair, I guess, when we're designing that kind of program, we're obviously speaking with the stakeholders at the client, so a lot of L&D people, talent, HR. It's really important to remember the end user as well, the person who's actually going to come into that session at the end of the day and sit down. You can speak to a CFO about something, but you're sitting in front of a salesman who's maybe only been there for a couple of months, or a salesman who's been there for 25 years, you're always considering, what are we going to teach them, and how are they going to take something memorable away from this experience, and making sure that we build that into the training program, really think about the end user. And a client that I'm working with at the moment over in New York with myself and Cody is a really great corporate media and barter company. We're doing a sales program with them, and we do workshop and coaching sprints. So it's really great to see them in the workshop, and then we have one-on-one coaching with them, and just seeing them develop and spark over that 6 months. And I love my coaching conversations with them every single month, because I get to sit down in front of them and, hey man, what's going on? How's it going? We'll talk about the football or something like that. I'll find, a relational aspect that we can always bond over. And then those conversations will progress over that 6 to 8 month period. Every time you see them, you see something else, and you speak about something else with them. And that one-on-one time with them, that 1 hour coaching slot that we usually do, we tend to do with a lot of clients, is where you can see real progression with them, and something that you can tell if they're enjoying the program, if they're getting anything out of it. And it's great to hear sometimes when they come in and say, I'm really enjoying these workshops or these coaching programs. So making sure that we really tailor it to the end user as well.
So really meeting the needs of the user, the participant that's going to be on the end of it. Another thing to think about perhaps in our teams is really tailoring what we're doing, the way we're working, to the people around us as well. John and I have talked about on the podcast, I think we talked about improvement, and we talked about whether we can actually improve someone or whether we can only give them the things to be able to improve. And I'll ask a similar question about our teammates, our colleagues. Can we spark the people around us? Can we spark our colleagues or teammates, or is that kind of up to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is where culture comes into play really largely here. As that saying, culture, it's not just about having free snacks and drinks in the office, or it's not just about how going out for a meal with the team or doing networking, whatever it might be. It's culture is how your employees will feel on a Sunday evening do they get the Sunday scaries? You know, are they looking forward to coming into work on Monday? We have quite a good culture here in terms of a Monday morning. We come in and we do our weekly rhythms, whether that's a sales meeting, whether it's a general stand-up every single Monday morning. We ask us how each other's weekends in. We get together over coffee. Like Mondays are our big days in the office, and I think that really helps with combat some of the Sunday scaries for sure.
Recording on a Monday. How was it last night, George? Were you Sunday scaries?
Sunday scaries? No. No Sunday scaries last night. Got a good night's sleep, ready for what came today. Looking forward to filming. So it's like I say, it's things like this. Mondays are usually very, very busy. It's very meeting heavy. We sometimes get to 5 o'clock and we haven't got the work done because we're just constantly in meetings. But like I said, that sounds like a potentially terrible day for a lot of people, but we make it work because everyone's in the office, everyone's around. You can ask the people you need to questions. It's actually quite a very productive day of meetings, I find personally. So that's when it's not just one thing. Everything feeds into the culture and how we can then use that to spark people. And like I said, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You can do everything you can within the company to help someone thrive and help someone grow. It is them at the end who will take that next step. But yeah, we absolutely, it is our responsibility, and everybody in the company is accountable for building that environment for every single person in here.
And what would happen, say, on that Monday, for example, someone turns up and they're not with it or they're not right? How would you go about sparking them? Because I think you're saying, yes, you can spark a teammate. Yes, we kind of have this responsibility to encourage each other. What would you do if someone's not quite there, underperforming? What do you think? The first step.
I think it depends on the person, and that's part of the relational bit, right? Like I would, like say it was George versus you, I think I would approach it differently, knowing your personality types. Like I know I can pull George aside for like a quick chat or something. I'd probably like send you a message because I know you have such like a positive, like you'd be like, no, I'm fine. Like everything's okay. I'd be like, I'll message you later and maybe you'll be ready to talk about it a bit later. George is like, yeah, let's chat. Or George will be like, no, I need to get on with my work. So it just depends on the person. So yeah. I think I want to go back to your question about like sparking your colleagues, right? Because I recently, last year, came into a managerial position more. And so I really had to think about I've never done that before, right? And had to think about how am I going to help this person grow? How am I going to make sure they're enjoying their time at interactive workshops, that they are sparked, right? And it was a lot of getting to know that person, asking a lot of questions, what motivates you, and also adapting my feedback style. I'm someone where I can give compliments all day. Like I reinforce good behavior. I know how to do that. But this person is like, that's great. What am I doing wrong? Like I want the constructive feedback. So understanding that people have, different things that help them grow. And they said, you're so nice, but give me more constructive feedback. So I had to, make sure that I'm looking at their work in that way and make sure I'm taking the time to tell them, okay, this is how you can get better. And also, helping them set their goals as well, things like that. So I think it's like making sure people have something to look forward to. Because sometimes if you just have your head down working every day and you don't really know what you're working towards, I think that's how you lose that spark a little bit. So
So having those things on the horizon that you're looking forward to, and maybe that awareness of what's coming up in your projects as well. And what advice would you give to someone looking to spark higher performance with their employees, with their team, like you're saying? Are there some tips? Are there some pieces of advice we can offer to a team leader who's looking to spark, to ignite their team?
Can I get really L&D again?
You can.
I always think of Simon Sinek, right? Am I saying his name
Simon
right?
Sinek, yeah.
Yes, Sinek.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at that. I think of Simon Sinek and start with why. I really think like the power of a shared goal, like even like us working in pods, right? I think last week I had won an opportunity and you were teasing me because I chose, before I even updated it in Copper, our CRM, I just wanted to tell my team immediately because I knew that was going to be like a win for all of us. You're laughing at me because it's so fluffy. But I just really wanted to celebrate with them because I know that we are working towards our target, right? Like we've set goals. We know what we want to sell by the end of July. We've, looking at our pipeline constantly, our projects, like what are we trying to do? And we had just talked about this client project the week prior. So it felt so good that like, okay, I've closed it. Like it's there. And before I even updated Copper, I just wanted to tell my pod.
Before the numbers.
The people. And I was like, I'll update it in Copper. That takes a second. But, just like that little buzz, that little motivation, like, okay, we're getting there step by step. So I do really believe in the power of a shared goal, shared accountability. What are we all like? What's the end point for all of us? What are we all working towards together? Because we all have like our own individual intrinsic motivations, right? Like you're motivated by numbers. I'm motivated by people, but we're still trying to do the same thing, right? We still have that shared goal of bringing in new, exciting projects, collaborating with interesting people at interactive workshops. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if senior executives watching this, how to spark an employee, I think really clear, structured, measurable goals for every individual person. What exactly can they do to input into the business to excel and, get us to our target of X? Sharing that visionary pathway. We know the number that we need to hit every single year as a company. And then we literally break that down per pod or per team, what we call them here. And then that also breaks down per person. And it's not like you individually have to hit 250K or whatever it might be, but it's the actions and the steps that you need to take towards that. So having those clear, actionable, measurable steps. I'm just going to keep churning out words: clear, actionable, measurable. Yeah. But making sure that every single person in the organization knows what they need to do in order for us to hit our number, or in order for us to hit, sell that product, or when that product launch comes out, whatever it might be, whatever industry you work in, it's how can they feed into the visionary, the mission statement, whatever the big, the pot at the end of the rainbow is for your company. Make sure everybody knows exactly how they can feed into that in order to spark that. Otherwise, like I said, they'll get bored, they'll feel lost. It's a competitive job market. You don't want to lose your best talent because people will snap them up.
It's good advice to start with why. Start with why and clear goals as well, having that feeding through. I'm going to get a bit more specific. Let's have a bit of George advice, bit of Blair advice that is not the L&D, in no way L&D jargon, in no way AI would have come up with this. Something no one else would come up with in terms of how to get the best out of an individual. George?
It's a little bit different to what you just asked, but it feeds into it. I'll work it around. So it kind of comes back to my favorite quote, which is, there are only two things in life that you can control: your thoughts and your actions. That's it. When you're feeling overwhelmed, when there's a lot going on, when you don't exactly know what's happening. If we're, having a podcast and Chris isn't doing very well, whatever it might be, I can't control anything that might be going on outside of me. I can't control what my clients might be thinking. I can't control if they move a timeline up on me, whatever it might be, but I can control how I take that information in and how I respond to it. So it's all about having the positive mindset and knowing that within yourself, how you're going to take information in and action that in order to, calm yourself down, set yourself, compose yourself, and then go again, because it can get very tough at work. People do get the Sunday scaries. We can have long days. We can have long commutes. We can have tough days. It's going to happen wherever you go. It's about how you manage it and move forward.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah,
I'm a bit lost in George's answer.
That's fine. What's a bit of advice you could give us in terms of sparking individuals that AI would never give? You're not going to see it on any L&D presentations. What's a Blair bit of advice? Unique.
I can't confidently say that this isn't in some L&D article, AI generated piece of work somewhere, but trust is the word that just popped into my mind. I think, can I relate it back to me and my experience when I felt that I was trusted to do what I need to do? I think that was the biggest motivator, that I am trusted to deliver and get the job done. So I think having a bit of trust in your team, I say a bit, having as much trust as you can based on their level of experience and things like that. But trusting people and getting to know them, like just get to know the people around you, as much as you can. Don't know how unique and that is, but that's what I.
That's fine.
It's never going to be able to be empathetic. It can try and replicate it, but having high empathy, putting yourself in other people's shoes, getting to know that employee or that whoever that might be, something that AI is never going to be able to do, no matter how hard it tries.
If you're enjoying this episode, do give it a like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We read every review, every comment, so please do comment, engage, react, whatever is around this post right now. Do that. We'd love that. Before we go, we'd love a little summary of what we're doing at Interactive Workshops. How are we helping individuals in the workplace?
Yeah, so the great thing about interactive workshops is that we deliver truly bespoke training programs. So whatever the client might want, we tailor it exactly to their specifications. We don't really do off the shelf. So one program we're working on at the moment is for Shock, a sales team that I'm working on. But it's also, as part of that sales team, it's broken up as half of them are more senior, who we're looking at the leadership skills are, and half of them are a bit more junior, who are looking at upskilling them and sort of harnessing their sales skills and learning a bit more about that. So the sales program, whilst it's one, it's sort of split into two. So we did a sales assessment before with the more junior sellers, and then the managers reviewed their answers and implemented feedback. And for the managers, we have tasked them on their leadership skills, and then going through sprints of management and sales workshops side by side with management and sales one-on-one coaching as well. And at the end, we'll do a post-program assessments. We'll do the same psychometric test again, the same assessment. How have we been able to upskill over the last 6 months as a seller, and how have your leadership skills improved as a leader as well? So something really exciting that I'm loving at the moment.
Yep. So adding on to what George said, a lot of bespoke programs. And I think the biggest thing that we do that sets our programs apart is our ability to bring people together in a room, bring together people that typically wouldn't have that time carved out in their day-to-day. Let's get together. Let's talk about what's happening. So a program that I've really enjoyed working on that's allowed that is supporting a women's empowerment program, where we, brought these women together and actually charted out how to help them apply some of these skills that they want to improve in their day-to-day through a self-assessment, building that awareness of where you're at and maybe why you're where you're at. Okay, let's do some coaching. Let's talk about how to get you where you want to be. Goal setting, some skill sessions in there as well. We're not just going to tell you what you should do, but how can you actually do it? So a lot of that practical application, and then finishing off with some coaching. Okay, you started here. Where are you ending? Where are you landing? Future focused thinking, where do you want to go next? So tying in the theory with the practical application, and then incorporating a lot of networking and really great discussion in there as well. So it's been a really, really fulfilling program to work on.
Thank you both for joining me on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you both on as guests. Please come back.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next time.